Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's DealerOn webinar, Ask Greg Gifford Anything. My name is Eliana Raggio, and I'll be your moderator today. And today's webinar is being presented by DealerOn. For anyone who isn't familiar with DealerOn, well, we're an award-winning website development company and digital agency best known for our amazing SEO, the best customer service, and the highest converting website designs in the industry, including the award-winning Chameleon responsive website platform. And just so's you know, after the last NADA, we were awarded the Driving Sales Dealer Satisfaction Award for top-rated websites for an unprecedented wait a minute, oh, it just came out, nope, 7th year in a row. What? We also took home the AWA Award for Best Websites for a third time, plus FCA and Ford have announced that we are now an approved vendor. Big things are happening over here at DealerOn this year. And by the way, just so you know, we're still the only company in the industry that offers a money-back lead guarantee program. Do you by any chance want to know more? Yeah, you do. You can check us out at DealerOn's gorgeous brand new DealerOn website at DealerOn.com. Hey, are you losing valuable traffic because of a slow mobile site? Well, that's no good. Google estimates that well over half your website traffic is coming from mobile devices. But don't you worry, because DealerOn now offers a mobile site speed test for free. You can get yours after the webinar during the survey. Just give us your URL and let the magic begin. It's a great way to see how your site stacks up to the competition. And DealerOn will be exhibiting and presenting at the upcoming NADA convention in Vegas at the end of March. So if you're going to be there, well, we need you to stop by booth 3493 Charlie. We have the best booth around, not to mention an open bar. We're not just bringing the best digital marketing tools and some free booze to NADA this year. We're also bringing some serious knowledge. Our very own Greg Gifford, today's host, will have 2 sessions on the Lego Master Builder's Guide to Local SEO for car dealers. Figure out what's holding your dealership back from showing up in Google searches in your area. And we've also got Michael DeVito, our Chief Creative Officer, who will talk about selling more cars with your mobile website strategy in Pave the Path to Purchase. Turn website traffic into sales. Can't wait to see you there. Keep your eyes peeled also for a $100 bill if you get a demo from us at NADA. We have a great show in store for you today. We're very pleased to have Greg Gifford as our presenter today. Greg Gifford is the Vice President of Search and Social at DealerOn. He's got over 15 years of online marketing and web design experience and has specialized in automotive SEO for the last 5 years, helping hundreds of auto dealers thrive while the industry has struggled during the recession. Greg speaks internationally at both automotive and SEO conferences, teaching thousands of small business owners and marketers how to get their sites to show up higher in local search rankings. He is an international SEO speaker and currently serves as a member of the board of directors for the DFW. What?
I don't know why that's still in there. I haven't been on the board in like 2 years.
Really? You got to update your bio, babe. All right.
I have updated my bio.
He graduated from Southern Methodist University with a BA in Cinema and Communications and has an obscure movie quote for just about any situation. Greg can be reached at ggifford@dealeron.com. Now, during the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, we're going to try to respond by email later today. And don't forget, a link to download a copy of this webinar recording will also be emailed to you later today for your reference. Feel free to share it with your friends and colleagues. And guess what? Our good friends at AutoHook are sponsoring this week's webinar giveaway. AutoHook is a showroom traffic driver, and they've built the ultimate attribution engine, which tracks that customer through the lead, showroom visit, and purchase, and then delivers a cost per sale that's best in the industry. One of you lucky webinar attendees will win a $250 e-gift card from Hook Logic. All you have to do is be on the live broadcast to win it. So stay tuned, and you could be the one walking away with this awesome prize today. And for more information about AutoHook, visit lead2show.com. Also, at the conclusion of this webinar, you're going to get a short survey. So fill it out. We're always looking for quality feedback from our audience, and we want to know what you thought of today's presentation. And hey, do you tweet much? We hope you do. We'd love to see what you have to say about today's show. So please tag us in it. You can use hashtag DealerOnWebby. I'm at Eliana Raggio. You can also hit up Greg Gifford at, you guessed it, Greg Gifford. We look forward to seeing what you're saying. All right, everyone, let's get started. Let's ask Greg Gifford anything. Oh, I love webinaring with you, Double G. How are you, sir?
Can I ask a question? Did you put these slides together?
Some of them.
Were you trying to say something back here when my head's like 1,000 times bigger than DeVito's?
No. I actually didn't make
There's
that
like some
slide.
sort of subtext there that you're trying to say
I
here.
didn't make that slide. Please, please forgive me
Okay,
if
so
it's a faux pas. Your head
somebody's
looks
trying
big.
to say something there. All right.
Well, it's so good to have you on the show again. I miss you. I haven't webinared with you since last year, my friend. Good to see
I
you.
know,
I'm
it's
so
been
excited.
forever.
I know. I'm so excited to see you at NADA coming up next month. So pleasure always, of course, having you on the show. And I know you have a lot of wonderful stuff to get to. We're going to get people excited about SEO for 2018 and also social. So before we get started, I just want to let everyone know this is a straight-on Q&A. Come with your questions. Let's see how we can help your dealership when it comes to SEO and social. So get those questions in. No one better to ask than my friend Greg Gifford. Now, Double G, before we get started, anything you want to say to the audience? Any new updates? Any crazy things that you've learned from Google or Bing or anything at all?
I would definitely say dealers should be paying attention to Google posts, which are something that appear on your Google My Business listing. One of our dealers, I won't say who because I don't know if they want me to say, but one of our dealers actually had Google reach out to them and say that of any business in any vertical in the entire world, they've had more impressions with their Google posts than everyone else in the whole world. Auto dealers are seeing a whole lot of visibility there. Now, are they getting a lot of click-throughs to the website? No. So if you're doing this, don't expect that it's going to bring you a measurable increase in website traffic, but it will get eyeballs on those posts. So it's a good way to showcase any specials that you have going on, any special events coming up, or if you get a really killer review and you want to show that, it shows up right on the knowledge panel on the right side of any brand search for you. So that's really cool. Another thing that everyone should pay attention to is Google has a questions and answers feature that has been on mobile for a while, and that just got rolled out to desktop. So dealers should definitely be paying attention to that. A couple of studies have been done, and the automotive vertical is the second most active for questions and answers being asked by users. So it's pretty likely that if you're not paying attention to what's going on there, you've got some questions that potential customers or people in your area have asked of the dealership, and you should be the one in there controlling that conversation and answering those questions, not other randos that are in town that happen to see it and answer for you. So I would pay attention to that immediately.
Is there a special link for that? Do you happen to remember off the top of your head?
It shows up in your Google My Business dashboard.
Oh, nice. Wow, that's great. Okay, questions are rolling in nice and fast. Greg, if you wouldn't mind, let's go to the next slide. It should be a picture of you with all your contact information, unless you changed it. There you go. All right, audience. We're looking forward to some tweets. We have email address up there as well, and get us your questions. Now, during the registration part of this webinar, we actually asked people to send in their questions. So I'm going to go to those questions first because they came in, obviously, first. All right. So first question came in from Andy. He says, in order of importance, what steps would you do for SEO? For instance, H1, title, description, text on pages.
All of those are important. There is no do the H1s first and then do everything. You hit a page at a time and you do all of that on the page. So you should never approach it like, I'm going to optimize my site, let me go through and hit all my title tags. And then next week I'll go through and hit my H1s. And then the next week I'll worry about content. The next week I'll worry about alt text. It's got to all be done at once. You want to hit it on a per page basis and hit everything that's an important element on each individual page. And then as far as order of importance on pages, you want to go top down, hit your home page first, and then your new page, your used page, then your service pages, and then kind of move down through there. And really take a look at your Google Analytics and see which pages are getting a lot of traffic. You want to hit those for sure first. And then definitely you should have Search Console attached to your Google Analytics. So you could go into Search Console or go into Google Analytics and hit Acquisition, Search Console, Queries, and see the different terms that you're popping up for. If you sort that by average position, I would definitely pay attention to anyone that's ranking in the page range or ranking in the range of like 11 to 16 or 17. Those are the people in the top half of page 2. If optimizing there, you've got a better chance of moving those pages up to page 1 if they're more optimized.
Oh, nice. All right. Andy, great question. Thank you so much. Now, this is another question that came in before we went live today, so let's get to this one. This one comes in from Blaine. Blaine says, here's my question for Greg. Currently, our body shop has a page on our main domain. Should I give the main domain name? Does that matter to you?
I don't care.
Okay, well, he wrote it. Has a page on our main domain, smarttoyota.com. And we own the domain name ballbodyshop.com that directs to this page. We're considering building a separate site for them, but I'm concerned about losing its SEO value that we've built for it on our current site. At what point would you recommend building a separate site for a body shop that is part of a single-point Toyota dealership?
I wouldn't necessarily recommend creating an entirely separate website. I would put all of that content on your main site in a kind of a siloed off area. So you have a body shop primary menu button with a submenu that leads to all the different body shop pages that you would have on there. Because if you do a separate website, you're doubling your efforts when it comes to SEO, because now you've got 2 sites to optimize, and 2 sites to write content for, and 2 sites to do blog for, and 2 sites to do social for, and 2 sites you've got to go after reviews for, 2 sites to do citations. So you're doubling all of the effort, where if you leave it all on your primary site, A, you're going to show up better for body shop stuff. B, the stuff that you do with the body shop section of the site is going to give you more relevancy for the whole site. So I would keep it all on the primary site.
Blaine, I hope you're here today and you heard that answer, all right? Okay, next question comes in from Joey. Joey has actually a lot of questions, so Joey, we're going to get to all of them. Just sit tight. First question, though, is can you provide any more insight for folks on the webinar will find useful in choosing a new provider in the Ford program?
Yeah, I could provide lots of insight. Ignore everybody else and sign up with us. Simple, done.
That seemed easy enough. Thanks for that, Joey.
Joey, what sort of insight are you looking for? Like how to judge one person versus another, or like what my opinion is? Like I'm not sure if he could clarify. I know he's here, so Joey, if you want to clarify in the chat with Eliana there and let her know kind of what insight you're looking for, I can probably answer that less snarkily.
Okay. Well, Joey said that was expected, so maybe Joey's writing in right now. And by the way, Blaine, who is the one who asked the question previous, he says, I got it. Thanks, Greg and Eliana. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's go to this next question from Joey and see if Joey writes back to us, okay? He says, what is your favorite tip or trick, etc., in using the new Google Search Console?
Keep using the old one. Gosh, I'm being a butthole on all these answers today. If you go look on Twitter, there's a whole lot of complaining going on with a capital B. A lot of marketers are not happy about the new Search Console. There's some functionality that is not there that was there before. One thing that's really cool is we've got a lot more than 90 days of history, which is great. We've all asked for that for a long time. I can kind of take credit for that. They actually said at a conference that something that I said at a little kind of private Google meeting with some SEOs and some Google people last year, that I made enough of a stink about it that they realized it was probably worth doing. So they've added that in. So the extra history is great, but there's some things missing that we would like to see back in there, but it's not like it's anything you need to really jump in on and be like, oh, there's this new feature, go use this. It's Search Console. I mean, you pay attention to it for error messages, but other than that, there's not a whole lot to do with it.
Well, Joey did write back in, and he said, yeah, that's why I was hoping you had figured it out, because it has really been frustrating. So thank you, Joey. And by the way, B wrote in, great feedback on the body shop topic. Thanks for answering that question from Smart Toyota. All right, thank you so much. We're going to get to some more questions. Let's see, next one comes in from Roy. Roy says, should we put a Yelp button on our website? We're managing our Yelp page, but not responding to posts, good or bad.
Okay, so there's several things there. A, should you put a link to your Yelp page off of your site? Technically, no. Yelp does not want you asking for reviews. It's against their terms of service to ask people to leave a review. They want it to happen organically. So really what I would suggest doing is, if you really want to have a link off of your site, you're probably safer linking to a Google search for your dealership's Yelp profile. So it would be dealership name Yelp as a Google search, and then you copy that address and put that in on the button. So when they click that button, it leads to a Google search where the Yelp page is the top result. That way, when they come into Yelp, they're coming in from a Google search. They're not all this, you don't have all this traffic coming in from your website, which could be possibly a bad signal to Yelp. Then he said they're managing the page, but they're not responding to anything. You should respond to everything on Yelp. So you should definitely be in there responding to positive and negative. You should respond to everything everywhere, but especially on Yelp, you don't want to look like you're ignoring what people are saying.
Fair enough. All right. Now, Roy, if you have a follow-up question, we'd love to hear it, okay? All right. By the way, Elmer wrote back in, and he says, hey, I'm from Holland. I'm the second person from that country, also the Netherlands. I'm attending the DealerOn webinars for roughly 3 years now and learned a ton of knowledge. Elmer, I can absolutely attest you have been on my webinars for a really long time, and boy, oh boy, do I really appreciate the support. So thank you so much. I'm sorry. All right, let's get to this next question. From Richard. Richard says, how is SEO linked to the gross profit of my dealership? Ooh, this could be like an entire webinar, I feel. So Greg, can you explain to Richard and the other dealerships out there how important SEO is to the bottom line?
Well, SEO is huge to the bottom line because just about every purchase that happens starts with the Google search. Now, there's lots of talk about trying to figure out the right way to do attribution because we all know that there are multiple touch points for attribution. Who cares? I don't care. All I know is, and it could be very easily proven that with automotive, it's a very long purchase cycle, and when someone's going to come buy a car, they're going to search on Google for things related to buying that car. They're going to start that purchase process early, and just because they come and look at you and don't convert doesn't mean they're not going to come and convert from another touch point later, but they've already been exposed to you. We always say search is the tip of the spear. You've got to do SEO, you've got to do PPC, you've got to be there when people are searching for anything related to buying a car or for service, or you're just not going to get those people in there. Now, sure, maybe somebody converted off of a Facebook ad that you put out. That doesn't mean that's the only place they saw you. They're going to see you in search, and you've got to be there. And if you go look at your Google Analytics, you will see that in any case, almost every time, organic search is going to be the largest source of traffic by far, unless you've got really deep pockets and you're spending a lot of money on PPC ads. So it's your biggest source of traffic. It's your biggest source of leads. And that's with the attribution model that's in place. That's not counting all of the stuff that's still being attributed to direct traffic on your site that really should be organic, and it's just broken and it's not reporting correctly. So if it's your biggest source of traffic and your biggest source of leads, you should be able to calculate, and you should already have this number calculated at your dealership of what your lead to show ratio is, and then you know what your close ratio is off of that. So you can work backwards and say, of every X number of leads, I end up with Y number of sales or service visits. That's how you tie it back in. You know, you're getting this many leads from search, you're getting that many sales out of it. It's actually pretty easy to figure that out.
Okay, Richard, hey, you got more questions? We got answers, so send us some more questions, all right? Let's see, next one. Oh, this one's interesting. This is coming from Karen. Hey, Jersey girl. Greg, what are your thoughts about reposting directly from a brand's social media platforms rather than only creating your own organic posts?
That's a flat-out awful idea.
What?
And
I mean, not even
why.
just work a few of them in? Just everything should be...
Does she work at Ford?
No.
I love Ford, and we're Ford partners now with the whole Ford Direct thing. But here's what's bad. Ford loves to push their Ford Direct social feed out to every Ford dealer. But what happens in bigger markets? I'm in Dallas. There's a boatload of Ford dealerships here. If I want to buy an F-150, what am I going to do? I'm going to look around at the different Ford dealerships to find where I want to buy from. I know I'm going to buy this truck. I know I want to buy it new, so now it becomes which dealership do I buy from? I'm going to be checking out the dealership's reviews. I'm going to be checking out the dealership's websites. I'm going to be looking at their social feeds. And most of those dealers probably have the Ford Direct social feed. And guess what? They get the same post at the same time on the same day. So when I'm looking at those dealerships, if I've got, let's say, 5 dealerships that I've kind of narrowed it down to, and 4 of those dealerships are posting the same boring crap on it, and the 5th dealership is posting individual stuff that shows the personality of the dealership and why they're better, and just something different from the 4 that have the same posts all day long, I'm probably going to go to the one that's better. Like, think of it this way. The people that follow you on social media, you want to stay front of mind. You want them to be engaged with you so that when it's either time to come in for service, they remember you, time to buy a new car years later, they're going to come back, or they have friends asking for recommendations, you want them to say nice things about you. If you're just posting the brand feed, let's say, again, using Ford as an example, I've got Ford stuck in my head today. Let's say I just bought an F-150. I just bought an F-150 yesterday, and the guy at the dealership's like, hey, keep in touch with us on social. We love to stay in touch with our fans and whatever. And I'm like, cool. And I follow you on Facebook. Facebook's algorithm will then today go, hey, this is a new follower, and it's probably going to show me whatever you've got posted. But if your ad is for a generic, hey, come check out the F-150s, guess what? I'm going to scroll right past because I just bought a truck. I don't need to look at your post about how great the F-150 is because I know that. And it's clearly a generic brand post. So I scroll right past. Well, Facebook's algorithm sees that I did not engage with your post, and it will be less likely to show me another post from you in the future. Then the next time the algorithm decides to show me a post, let's say it's another one of these generic brand posts that I could care less about because I think it's just some ad and I scroll right past, then it's going to be even less likely to show me something in the future. So if the only stuff that you're posting is this generic, boring brand stuff that everybody else is sharing, nobody's engaging with that, and very quickly you're going to have followers that would have been engaged and would have been valuable that will now never see anything that you post ever again, no matter how often you post. So I would stay very far away from those posts unless it's like truck month and there's incentives or specials that are important to share with people. Heck yeah, share the heck out of that stuff. You want to share the stuff that is valuable to potential customers. But if it's just the standard brand building, like, hey, rah, rah, Toyota's awesome, rah, rah, buy a Kia, like nobody cares. And they can see that from the brand if they want to follow the brand. But from your dealership, it should be custom stuff from the dealership level.
Okay, so Karen wrote in, she says, first, thanks for being on my side, #organic. But the second thing she wrote was, LOL, I have 19 brands, so I don't worry much about Ford as they push stuff through reputation.com. But Karen, now you have your answer. If you have a follow-up question, well, we'd love to get to it, so send that in. All right, we're cruising through here. We got a lot of questions still to go, so let's see. Next one comes from Joey again. Joey says, speaking of Google posts, would you classify the click-through on the posts as organic or referral? I've been using some UTM tags on them since it can be a 2-click process to get to my site. Had me debating if it was more of a referral than organic.
Well, a referral, organic is a referral. Like a referral means it's any site that sends traffic. So it's coming from another source. So it's coming from Google. I would put it as organic because the only way they're going to get to that Google post is if they do a brand search for your dealership. So that is organic traffic. So 100% put your medium as organic on those UTM tracking codes. And for everybody else that's listening, if you're doing Google posts, you should be doing like Joey's doing and put UTM tracking codes on those links for your Google posts, because a lot of times that traffic is misattributed as direct traffic. So it 100% is organic traffic that's coming to your page that you're linking to from that Google post. You want to make sure you're getting the organic credit for that, so make sure you're using UTM tracking to be sure that that shows up correctly.
All right, great question, Joey. You always have the good ones, and I'm sure we'll hear some more from you, so keep them coming. All right, next question comes from one of our friends in Holland, actually. Jop is writing in saying, how many visits does someone do before actually coming to a dealership to buy a car?
That number is all over the board, and there's no way to tell, but we do know that the latest numbers say that people are only really visiting about a 1.3 or a 1.4 average of dealerships before buying, which basically just says people don't hop dealerships anymore. People will show up, and at the point that they're showing up for that test drive, they're pretty sure they want that car. And so if you've got somebody walking in the door, it's your deal to lose, because they're probably going to buy from you unless you just really screw something up. Now, you might have a couple of people that narrow it down, and they'll say, I was down to this car or this car, I'm going to go test drive both. But at the point that they're coming into the dealership, they're pretty much ready to buy. Now, how many visits to your site it takes before that? Who knows? because I've seen research that says it's, tons of visits. I've seen research that says that by the time that they're doing that, later in the funnel, they're only going to visit 1 or 2 times and then they're going to come in. Who knows? It kind of depends on your website. How good is your site? How good is your content? How good is your call to action? So it's really tough to answer how many times they're going to come to your site before they decide to visit the dealership.
Yeah. All right. Jop, thank you so much. Okay. And he has a follow-up question. He says, are there generic keywords that a dealer should aim for? And what keywords are related to the beginning of the car purchase journey, and what keywords are to the last?
So basically think of it this way. Everybody should be familiar with the term long tail. So you've got a short tail keyword. That's a very short keyword phrase, and it becomes more long tail as you add more to that search query. So you want to be showing up for everything. You want to show up for the really generic stuff like Ford dealer, Honda dealer, Toyota dealer, with no city included, because it's going to show the local stuff anyway. But then you want to be for Ford dealer Dallas. Then you also want to be for Ford dealer North Dallas. But you also want to show up for generic used cars, or used cars Dallas, or used car dealer Dallas, or auto repair Dallas, or auto service Dallas, or Ford service Dallas, Toyota service Dallas. But then you also want to have the ridiculously long tail stuff. Now it's harder to go for the long tail stuff because something like 30% of the queries that happen on Google every day have never been searched on Google before. And as people are starting to really use the virtual assistants and voice search on their phone, search has become a lot more conversational, and it's not simply 1 keyword or 2 keywords or 3 keywords. It's a long sentence that Google then interprets what they mean. So it's not like you can really target every possible eventuality, but you really want to go for those generic keywords that are early on in the funnel. Mm-hmm. And then typically later funnel, you want to concentrate more on just making sure that you've got a really kick-ass website with really well-optimized VDPs, because usually later in the funnel, after I've done my research and figured out this is kind of where I'm going to go, this is the direction I'm going in for what I'm going to buy, now it becomes I'm looking at that specific car, like the example I used a minute ago. I know I'm going to buy an F-150. It now becomes which dealership am I going to buy from? So later in the funnel, it's really more about you're not going to win that race unless you have that model on your site. Because if I'm looking for a 2018 F-150 King Ranch that's black, if you don't have that truck, I'm not going to your site. I'm not going to go to your site and say, oh, I can do an inventory search and you guys can find it and transfer it for me. No, I'm going to go to the dealership that's maybe 5 minutes further away that actually has that truck that I can go in and see, taste, feel, touch, smell. So later on, it becomes much more inventory focused, and later on, it becomes much more focused on the reviews that you have, so that people are deciding where they want to buy from, as opposed to just, I need to buy a car.
Okay, talk to me a little bit. Jop, by the way, he says, great answer, so thank you so much. But I feel like there are people out there who are doing SEO, and they're using, or they're trying to bulk up keywords that really no one would type in. So can you talk to us a little bit about bad keywords that maybe some other unscrupulous companies might be saying, hey, look, we got you these keywords, because I know it's happening in
you want to be careful. Like, there's a great example of and this was a year or two ago, we were talking to a dealership, and they were being pitched by one of our competitors, and their competitors were like, oh, DealerOn sucks, you don't want to go with them. We can get you ranked for anything. Watch this. Give us a term, and we'll get you ranked for it #1 by tomorrow. Guaranteed. And they were like, no. And they're like, no, we'll do this for free just to prove what we can do. And they said, okay, we want to be, #1 for Ford dealer, and I don't remember the exact whatever, but they were like, we want to be #1 for Ford dealer Kentucky. And that provider was like, oh, well, that's way too general. You don't want to go for that. That's not going to convert, which, heck yeah, it would. But they're like, no, that wouldn't convert. Okay, well, we want this, whatever. Basically, they talked them into you really needed to go long tail, because that's where conversion started. So they said, how about we go spray and bed liner in northern Kentucky, which is probably a phrase that no human ever has or ever will search. So sure enough, one day later, they wrote a blog post and pointed a link at that blog post from one of their other sites. And sure enough, the next day, that ranked #1 for spray and bed liner in northern Kentucky. Because guess what? Nobody else is targeting that phrase. But if that dealer wasn't smart enough to understand that they were getting hosed by that sales guy, they would have been super impressed and been like, oh my God, you got me to #1 in a day. I'm going with you. Luckily, that guy was smart enough, and the reason we found out about it is because they were sending it to me to kind of laugh at it. But you got to be careful and like really think about it. Is this something a human would actually type in? And we get dealers all the time that don't really understand how search works, to put it nicely, and they'll say, oh, we're not showing up for Toyota Camry. And I did a video about this last year. You know, we had a dealership that was upset they didn't show up for the phrase Toyota Camry. Well, when you're just typing that in, Google doesn't have enough information there to discern what your intent is. Are you writing a research paper about Toyota Camry? Are you trying to look at the history of Toyota Camry? Are you wanting to buy one? Are you looking to see if one's available in your area? It doesn't know. So Toyota Camry, it has determined from analyzing all of the different searches that it does, if you're just going to do make and model, that's an informational intent, not a purchase intent. So it's not going to show dealerships. It's going to show the brand website, Toyota or Ford or whatever. It's going to show car and driver and the reviews and the story about when that model came out and they did the user test or consumer insights or anything like that. So dealerships won't show up, period. It's just not going to happen. It's impossible. Now, as soon as you add in a city name into your search or add in a year to kind of start qualifying and moving down that road where they can tell that you do have purchase intent, yeah, that's when dealerships are going to start showing up. But you don't want to even try to show up for that. And a lot of dealers are like, well, we can't show up organically. Let's go put a bunch of money in so we can show up there for pay-per-click. The thing is, you don't want to. Those aren't going to convert. You're going to spend a ton of money to get clicks on those phrases where people are either just going to bounce off your site or they're going to browse around. But that's, if they're searching like that, it's either not purchase intent or it's so ridiculously early funnel that it's not going to convert anyway. So you've got to be careful about where you're spending your money on the AdWords side. But I totally forgot what the original question was.
Bad keywords that they shouldn't be worried about.
Yeah, so like keywords you shouldn't be worried about. You can go in and there's different keyword tools out there, like SEMrush has a good one. You can use the Google AdWords keyword tool to go in and see like what the estimated monthly search volume is for a keyword phrase. And if you're going in and you're checking it and it says less than 10, that pretty much means there's 0 searches every month for that phrase. I wouldn't worry too much or put too much effort into going after that. Or if you do, it's not going to take a whole lot of effort to show up for it. But why would you want to show up for a bunch of random phrases that Google says or a tool says this doesn't really get much traffic when you're not showing up well for the ones that do bring in a lot of traffic? So I would go after the search phrases that have higher keyword volume because people are searching for them more often.
Okay, original question asker, Jop, thank you so much for that question. All right, follow-up questions, anyone? Send them in. All right, next question comes in from Greg. Oh, another Greg. All right, Greg says...
No, I just typed it in. I'm asking myself.
No, you didn't. Your last name isn't Italian. All right, Greg says... Greg, with Google just rolling out new parameters on ad blocking on Chrome, do you have any suggestions, aside from the obvious ones, Google is recommending to not run afoul of these new rules? Also, does it pertain more to display and auto-run video than other ads? Thanks.
Yeah, this isn't going to block your AdWords ad because remember, Chrome's owned by Google. Google's not going to push out a feature on Chrome that's going to block its primary revenue stream. What this is doing is this is blocking those sites that you go to where it's like, shit's going here and here. Oh, can I say that? Sorry. Stuff's going here and stuff's going here and stuff's going here and this is flashing and the video's going here and you're like completely overwhelmed and you don't even know what's going on the site because there's all these ads in your face. That's what it's talking about. It's the ads that are flashing. It's the autoplay video ads. It's things like that that it's targeting, which hopefully your dealership website doesn't have that. I've very rarely seen a dealership website that is putting ads for other companies on their own website. So really, it just doesn't apply to dealerships. And if you're using a vendor to run your ads, you're probably not running offensive ads like that anyway on the ad network or anywhere else. So it's probably not anything that applies to you.
All right,
and if it does apply to you and you are running ads like that, well then yeah, it's going to hurt you. But really, you shouldn't be running ads like that anyway because they're hella annoying.
Hella annoying. All right. Oh, Greg has a follow-up. He says, you guys rock. Are you hiring for outside salespeople? That I don't know. You can check our website, though. I know we have employment opportunities posted on our website. So if we are, you should check it at DealerOn.com. All right. Okay. Oh, he says, thanks, guys. All right. Next question. Oh, this one comes from Thomas. Hey, Thomas. Thomas says, there are many variables in total organic traffic on the website. So what metrics are best to review to determine success or failure with our current SEO company? Rankings for certain keywords. I know we talked about this a little bit, but
ever use keyword ranking as a metric for success?
Really?
Like we just talked about, spray and bed liners for Northern Kentucky. I could go get you ranked #1 for 1,000 phrases tomorrow, but that's not going to increase your traffic because no human's ever going to search for those phrases. And everybody's results are different. Google personalizes your search results based on the search history of the device that you're on. And with auto dealers, that falls under the local algorithm, which means proximity is going to come into play, and your results will be localized to your local area. So you've got a localization aspect there, plus the proximity of how far away is the search result from your physical location when you're doing the search, which means even in your own city, people can be searching and they'll see vastly different search results. That rank tracker that you're trying to use, A, isn't even located in your city, so it's not realistic. B, that's the emulation of what one computer thinks that people will see. It's not in reality what real people see. So that doesn't tie into your bottom line. How you rank doesn't translate into how many cars you're selling. So you should be looking at your organic traffic over time. Is your organic traffic increasing over time? Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to go up for forever. You will plateau. Once you're #1 for most of the phrases, and again, I'm not saying this from a rank tracking of check if you're #1, but if you're the top result or within the top few results, regardless of where you are in the area, and you've done everything you can, you're well optimized, and you're kicking everybody else's ass, at that point, you're probably going to have to hit a plateau on your traffic because there's only so many people in your city that are buying cars. The only way, if you're supremely visible for every phrase you could possibly be visible for, the only way you're going to get more organic traffic is if people go clone themselves and all of a sudden there's more adults that are of buying age buying cars. So, you know, half the people that come by SEO from us, they're not showing up on page 1. They're not showing up on page 2. They know they're not visible in Google. They understand that if they get SEO, they're going to get increased visibility, which results in an increase in organic traffic and an increase in leads coming from organic and an increase in the quality of leads overall on their site. The other half of people are people that already have great visibility, but either they're switching website or switching SEO providers, or they were doing SEO internally and now they want to outsource it, or maybe they're just doing well because they've been in that town for 50 years and they've done a lot of things naturally that translated into SEO signals, but it wasn't really a conscious SEO effort. But now their competitors are doing SEO and they're gaining ground and they want to get SEO to maintain that #1 position. Because if you're #1, the only place you go is down. So if you're one of those people that you already have good visibility, you shouldn't expect to see massive increases in traffic. And over time, what's your gauge for success? Your gauge for success is that your organic traffic stays mostly flatline and you're not losing ground to competitors. But if you're not doing well, then you should see that going up over time. Now, how much it goes up depends on what town you're in, how many people there are, and what kind of competitive landscape there is. So there's no like, hey, you should look for a 40% increase every year, and if you're not getting that, then you need to bail. Who really knows? It's going to be different depending on who you're with. But if you're asking that because you want to vet your current provider, if you have a kind of a gut feeling that you're not getting good results, chances are you're probably not. You could definitely come talk to us. We could jump on the phone. We could take a look at your site and some of the basic signals and see if the SEO 101 basics that any SEO would agree on are important. If they're not being taken care of, then that's probably a sign it's time to switch providers.
You know what? I think this is a perfect time to lead into our only poll question of the day. So audience, I want you to get to your screen. It is up on the screen now. We want to know, how satisfied are you with your current SEO provider? Please select one of the following answers. Are you very satisfied because they actively work on SEO every month? Are you somewhat satisfied? You get reports on gradual improvement. Meh, we're doing okay, but it could definitely be better. You're not satisfied at all. Our SEO really needs help right now. Or, wait a minute, didn't SEO come with our website when we bought it? Yeah, that's an answer too. So once we get a majority of the votes in, we're going to close this poll and share the results. Now, we still have a number of questions that have come in from the audience, but Did you get your question in? If you haven't gotten in your question yet, for the one and only Greg Gifford, Vice President of Search and Social here at DealerOn, an all-around great guy and amazingly smart dude, then get that question in. We want to help you with both your search and your social queries. Get that question in. All right. So, did you see my follow-up question? Yes, I did. I'm going to get to that soon, Richard. Thank you. All right. So still waiting for some more votes to come in. All right. Here we go. Wow. Very interesting. Okay, let's close this poll. Audience, thank you so much for your votes. Let's share these results. All right, how satisfied are you with your current SEO provider? Well, only 28% of today's audience said that they were very satisfied because they feel that their SEO company actively works on their SEO every month. Now, the majority, 34% of today's audience, say they're somewhat satisfied. They get reports on gradual improvement. 24% of today's audience, that's a quarter of today's audience basically, say, meh, we're doing okay, but we know it could definitely be better. 10% of today's audience say they're not satisfied at all and their SEO really needs help right now. And 3% of today's audience thought that SEO came with their website when they bought it. All right. And so
that 24% that said meh and that 10% especially that aren't satisfied, call me.
Okay, but let me ask you something, because I think that there is a great misunderstanding when people buy a new website that they believe that it comes with SEO. Can you tell dealerships out there, unless they buy an SEO pack, I mean, can you explain to them when they buy a new website that what kind of SEO it comes with and what kind of SEO they actually need?
So there is no website out there in automotive or in the real world actually that includes SEO. SEO is a manual process that is an ongoing process that never stops. That's not included with your website. When you get the website, you are paying for the website and the hosting for that website. Especially within automotive, when you're buying from an automotive provider, you're paying for a specialized website that applies to car dealership, but SEO is not included. Now, there will be optimization points that are included, like, for instance, your VDPs. No SEO agency is going to touch VDPs because you're changing your cars out all the time. Most dealers have a couple of hundred cars in inventory, and it's just not feasible. It would be extravagantly expensive to have someone go in and optimize your vehicles whenever you put your vehicles in. So there are certain best practices that are built into every system that will auto-optimize those VDPs for you. So yes, there is some built-in automatic optimization on VDPs and inventory search pages, and to some degree some of the other pages of your site, but SEO, as I am doing search engine optimization, is never included with a website. It is always an add-on service that's an additional cost.
Okay, and let's just drive this point home. How often should a company touch your website when it, with regards to improving your SEO gradually?
Oh, I mean, there should be something going on easily multiple times a month. I mean, as far as actually touching the website, it doesn't have to be a daily thing. A lot of the SEO signals happen off of your website, so they might be touching signals related to SEO and not actually doing anything on your site. So don't necessarily freak out if you're like, oh, the content hasn't changed on my website and nothing absolutely has changed at all in the last 2 weeks. That's not necessarily that thing, because maybe your agency or your provider is doing something else like link building or citations or something off of the site. But I can say for us, every single day of the week, something is happening for your dealership if you're with us. Now, whether it's actually something on your website or off your website doesn't matter to us. At least once a day, we are working on some aspect of your SEO. So if you have a provider that you feel isn't doing that, and don't be misled to think that just because a provider is in your OEM program through Shift or your OEM that they are going to do great SEO. I would definitely vet everyone and make sure that they're doing the right thing. I would definitely make sure that your provider understands that there are two different algorithms. There is a standard algorithm, there's a local algorithm, and there are additional things you have to do for that local algorithm, and most of the providers out there don't do anything different for that. So you're not doing the best thing you can do for your dealership. And like I mentioned earlier, it's your biggest source of traffic. It's your biggest source of leads.
Mm-hmm.
So, 24% of people said, meh, we're okay. My provider's good enough. But why are you satisfied with someone that's good enough? They're not good enough. You need somebody that's awesome. You need to be supremely happy with them because it's your biggest source of sales and your biggest source of leads. If you switch from somebody that you just kind of feel meh about to somebody where you're like, oh my God, this guy kicks ass, that can make a huge difference to your bottom line.
Agreed. All right. I did want to get to this comment from one of our attendees. I hope I say her name right. Keela? Oh, I hope it's right. If it's not, I apologize. So Keela wrote in and said, I love the DealerOn platform. And then she also wrote in and said, I do the SEO myself, so I'm pretty satisfied. But Greg, tell me something. If and there's a lot of people out there who are doing SEO themselves, right? Can you give them a hint or advice if you're doing SEO yourself, something that might make a huge difference? Like, really
watch our weekly videos on our blog, because probably 80% of our Wednesday workshop videos are about search and social and things that can help you,
mm-hmm.
and helpful tips. Definitely read the local column in Search Engine Land. That comes out every week. I would read that for sure. We have a guide for local SEO that I wrote that you should definitely download and read through.
Oh yeah, that's really good. That's really good.
I would follow certain people that are local SEO experts on Twitter to just kind of stay up to date with changes, because you could be perfectly awesome right now and majorly kicking ass on the SEO for your site, but if Google rolls out an update and you're not aware of that update, you might be doing something that then penalizes your site. So it's important for everyone out there that's doing SEO for their dealership that you at least follow a handful of people on Twitter and read Search Engine Land on a very regular basis and pay attention to our blog on a regular basis to stay up to date with any current best practices that might change because of Google updates.
That's great. You mentioned local SEO experts. Do you have any names that come to mind that people could follow on Twitter?
So I would follow me. I would follow, I should know their Twitter handles off the top of my head.
I know. I'm sorry I put you on the spot.
I would follow Will Scott. He's a super smart guy out of New Orleans. His Twitter handle is @W2Scott, like W and then the number 2 and then Scott. I would follow Darren Shaw, who's a guy out of Canada that has an SEO tool company. I'm pretty sure he's Darren Shaw _, so DARRENSHAW _. Phil Rozek is an awesome guy to follow. That's @Phil, PHILROZEK. I think he's out in New Jersey, actually. But he's great. Joy Hawkins, which I'm pretty sure hers is Joy Ann, ANNE Hawkins on Twitter. She's amazing. Mike Blumenthal is @MBlumenthal. He is Professor Math. He's like the old school guy that everyone follows for local SEO info. David Mim is also great. That's @DavidMIHM. He's in Portland. I just had lunch with him yesterday.
Oh.
He's another great one to follow too.
A lot of great names. Greg wanted to know, what about Moz Twitter? Is that worth following?
Moz Twitter is worth following for like important updates and stuff, but they don't really talk too much about local SEO things. But they're still great to follow.
Karen, she says, oh my God, I can't keep up with them. Can you send those names in the follow-up? Well, I'll tell you what, we are recording this for you, Karen, okay? So you'll definitely have it in the recording. We'll send you that link later on today. All right, let's keep going with these great questions. Audience, get those questions in, okay? Because we're nearing the top of the hour. Okay, next question comes in from Richard. Hey, Richard. Richard wants to know, is that part of what your premium SEO package does for the websites you support? Okay. Without getting too salesy, I know that's a little hard, but we do have a direct question from an audience member. So let's talk about.
But he said, is that part of what our service covers? What does that refer to?
I don't know. I don't know, but let's just go with what does premium SEO provide dealers here at DealerOn?
It's actually called Elite SEO because that's the name, and we just have the one package. That's something else you should also look at when you're trying to vet SEO providers, is if they have multiple packages. That kind of doesn't make sense, because if we know that this and this and this and this and this and these 5 things over here are all important to SEO, why would I give you a package that only includes this many things so that it's cheaper? That's like if I walk into a dealership and you're like, hey, it's going to cost you, $50,000 for this BMW. And I'm like, well, I only want to pay $30,000. And they're like, cool, we'll just take the front axle off the car. It's not going to work. What's the point? Sure, I bought a BMW for 30 grand, but if it's not going to drive me anywhere, what's the point? Same thing with SEO. That's why people ask us all the time, well, why don't you have a cheaper package? Well, because I know that these are the things that are important, and cutting any of those things out is going to reduce the effectiveness of what we do, so we're not going to do that. So we have a single package that covers 4 pillars, basically. All of your content and optimization on your site. That includes, all of your pages on your site other than your VDPs. We go back and we optimize your site several times a month for forever, because we're always trying to squeeze the best possible performance out. You're getting 4 blog posts a month from us that are, locally focused, which a lot of other people don't do. They just churn out the boring, let me talk about this car, who cares? So we write stuff that your customers and people in the local area will actually care about and want to read. We also do content marketing on those posts. So a lot of people will write these blog posts and they sit on your blog and nobody reads them, but we're actually going to share links on social media, so that helps. So we've got the content side. Then we do link building, which almost every provider does not do. And in Google's algorithm, the #1 most important weighted signal is having other websites linked to your website. So it kind of cracks me up when people are doing cheap SEO with providers that don't do any link building, because they're skipping the most important piece of the puzzle. So we spend a lot of time working on building relevant local links from other local businesses to your site. We also work on your citations, which is your directory listings. Anytime the dealership name, address, phone number is listed on another site, we make sure those are clean up and that you're listed where you should be. We also do the reputation management side of things. So we use a review survey system to help you get more positive reviews and fewer negative reviews. We also monitor all the review sites and try to get responses up within 24 hours to negative reviews. And we'll go through once a week and do responses to your positive reviews. So every review gets a response. And then we also do social media, because social interaction is important. So we post daily on Facebook and Twitter. So all of that is included, and that's all what
you said 4 pillars, but that was a lot more than 4.
Well, no, it's on-site stuff, off-site stuff, review stuff, and social stuff.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay.
Hopefully that answered your question, Richard.
Richard, certainly if you have a follow-up question, we would love
Is that Richard Kamala that asked that?
It is.
Come on, Richard. We've talked about this before. You should know that. But thanks for planting the question so everybody else can hear it.
Oh, Richard, you're so cute. Okay, let's go to this next question. You did mention blogs, so our next question is actually from Michelle. Michelle says, should I create a blog for SEO purposes, and what should I do about competitors who spam the search engines? So, double question for you, Greg.
Question #1, should you have a blog? Yes. For SEO purposes, who cares? You should have one for your customers, because there's tons of useful, important, relevant information you should be sharing there to differentiate yourself from your competitors and to keep people interested and happy. So you should have it there for your customers. You should definitely have it there for SEO purposes. 100%. It's not even a question anymore. If you don't have a blog, you're not going to compete well in search. And then what should you do about competitors that spam the search engines? Spam the search engines how? Like, without knowing what it is that your competitors might be doing, it's tough to say what you can do. So if you can give us was that Michelle that asked the question?
It was.
Michelle, give us a clarification of what you mean by your competitors spamming the search engines.
Okay, well, hopefully Michelle is writing in. I just want to talk to you a little bit about blogs, because I hear from a lot of dealers that coming up with the content for the blogs is really a big challenge for them. So is it 100% got to be about cars that they sell? Does it have to, I mean, I've heard some people say, hey, we put up holiday recipes around the holidays,
Yep.
and
Anything
talk about
that's
community
useful
stuff.
or relevant, and you basically want it to be kind of like what this webinar is. Everybody knows that DealerOn does a webinar every Thursday, and they come back to see Eliana's beautiful face and see what's going on with the webinar. We do our Wednesday workshop videos every Wednesday. Moz does Whiteboard Friday videos every Friday. You want to establish that you're sharing on a specific day so that people will know I can come back for useful information. And if all you're ever talking about is, hey, check out the new F-150. Hey, check out the new Mustang. Hey, here's information about the new Focus. Like, nobody cares. You should have research pages on your site or model pages on your site that show that information anyway. That's not useful. For us, half the stuff that we write doesn't have anything to do with the dealership. It's stuff about the local area. It's information about local stuff of like, hey, here's, if you're coming to town, you're coming to Dallas, here's 5 cool places to go have barbecue if you're coming in from out of town. Or, hey, there's a 5K that we're sponsoring this weekend. If you guys are going to the 5K, come check us out. And, oh, by the way, here's 5 cool restaurants you can go grab lunch at after you're done with the 5K. Where, okay, it kind of ties into the dealership because you're talking about how, hey, we're sponsoring this 5K and it's going to happen, the dealership's involved. But then it jumps right into, here's 5 restaurants in the area, go check out. That there's not really any affiliation there. But, hey, guess what? When you go share that on social, people are like, oh, that's kick-ass. I'll go read that. I'm going to the race. And that gets people to your site. And maybe they're looking for a car. Maybe they're not. But they're on your site. Now they've been exposed to you. Now they're going to remember you when it is time to buy a car or come in for service. So, yeah, when you're writing stuff, trying to come up with stuff to blog, information about the local area, local sites to see, local things going on, anything locally newsworthy, sharing recipes. You're probably involved in the community already as a dealership. Most dealerships are. Talk about the things that you've been doing in community involvement. Hey, you just sponsored that 5K. Come back the next week and share some pictures of your little table that you had set up and people that stop by, or you're sponsoring hole number 14 at the golf tournament next weekend. You put up a blog post about it beforehand that says, here's what's coming, and then a week or 2 afterwards, hey, here's pictures of all the fun that we had at the golf tournament. So it's not that hard. A lot of times when you've got any sort of community event or something going on with the dealership, you can get 2 blog posts out of it because you can do one beforehand to let people know about it, and then one afterwards recapping it and showing pictures or videos or whatever. And then you talk about the local area. So it's really not that hard once you broaden your scope and don't just try to write about the dealership for every post that you're writing.
Good advice. All right. Michelle did write back about that, what do I do about competitors who spam the search engines? Michelle said, my boss asked me to write that, and then he left for lunch. Sorry, I don't have any further clarification. All right, Michelle, if he happens to come sauntering back into the dealership, hopefully we can get some more clarification and see if we can help you out.
Or pop me an email. Just email me at greg@dealeron.com, and I'll answer the question once you get clarification.
That sounds great. Michelle, totally take him up on that. All right. Let's see. Oh, another follow-up question from Richard. Hey, Richard. Okay, Richard says, and if I have to choose between spending on SEO versus third parties like Cars.com and AutoTrader.
I don't know how to politically correctly answer this question on a public webinar. That would be, I would say, my big thing that I talk about at conferences this year is, well, hopefully that answer, that ambiguous, oh my gosh, I don't know how to answer this, was enough of an answer for you.
He wrote in, you love me.
You can infer what you might want to infer out of that answer, but one of the big things that I'm talking about at every conference that I go to this year is test things for yourself. I'll get up there and I'll say, look, I'm the guy that they picked to be up here on stage to talk about local SEO, but don't take what I'm saying as gospel. Don't listen to me. Take it as guidance and say, hey, I'm sharing, the reason I'm here and the reason I speak at a lot of conferences is because I share stuff that is helpful, but it's not a guarantee that it's going to work for you. Local SEO is really complicated. What works in one city doesn't work in another. And what works for car dealers,
you didn't tell me that.
What works for car dealers won't necessarily work for attorneys. And what works for attorneys won't necessarily work for car dealers, and back and forth like that. So just because I tell you something doesn't mean it's 100% true for your dealership. But I would test it for yourself, and I would do a cost analysis of how much money are you spending on these third-party lead providers, and how much guaranteed leads are you getting. You kind of have to really do some work to trust to see that the numbers that you're getting in the reports from them are the same thing that you're actually seeing at the dealership level on the ground. I can tell you that there are clients that we have that we do SEO with that have dropped AutoTrader and Cars.com and not suffered one bit. I can also tell you I have some dealers that get huge returns from autotraderandcars.com, and we would never in a million years suggest that they stop because they clearly get a lot of business from it. So it really depends on your specific dealership. What are you getting from them? Are you getting a lot of business out of Auto Trader and Cars? If you are, heck yeah, keep going. But if you're not, or if you're like, geez, I don't really think that I am, and there's really not a way to prove it, then really dig in and find out. Because if you're spending thousands of dollars somewhere else, you want to be sure that that money is being well spent. Now, if it's a question of how do you know what to do when you're saying, should I spend on SEO or should I spend on those? 100% of the time, I'll tell you, if you have $5,000 to spend and that's all you have to spend no matter what, and it's a choice of spending, you know, half of that or a little bit more on SEO and then the other half on whatever, or just taking the whole $5,000 and putting it into Auto Trader, you're going to get much more return out of the SEO side of things. There's never a question of, should I do something else instead of SEO? It's always, what can I do along with SEO? But SEO is the tip of the spear. You have to be doing SEO. It's just, you're not going to compete if you're not showing up well in searches. It doesn't matter if you're on every third-party lead provider and you're at the top of the list on every third-party lead provider. You've got to be there in organic search for your actual dealership as well. So you never want to forego SEO to be able to pay for something else.
Thank you very much. And yes, Richard, we do love you. And his follow-up question for you is, can I use DealerOn's SEO package if we are already using reputation.com?
Yes. If it is a situation where your manufacturer requires that you use reputation.com, we have several situations like that where there is a OEM mandated reputation provider that a dealership must use. In most of those cases, those dealerships continue to use that mandated product so that it is on a line item on their bill so that they are compliant. But our reporting system catches reviews faster and our responses are written better. So in most cases, that dealership will tell reputation.com, hey, look, we're just going to pay you, don't do anything. And they let us do everything for them.
Okay, yeah, because then he goes on to say, I'm in a contract for a year.
So there might be ways to look at getting out of that contract, but if you're just stuck in the contract, I wouldn't let that keep you from getting on our platform, because there's definitely a lot of other benefits that are much more important than the review side. Reviews as a signal weight are like 7% of the overall algorithm signal comes to reviews. So more than 50% of the weight goes to content and links. So I wouldn't let, you know, a 6 or 7% signal keep you from going after the stuff that's really going to matter.
All right, Richard says thanks. All right, Greg, let's keep going. Oh, and he says, got it. Okay, Keith, I know you've been waiting a while. Keith says, how many sites should an individual person handle for SEO? Because, you know, we heard from Karen. She said she's got 19 different brands, you know. So for one person who's in a dealership, what do you think is the maximum number of websites they should be doing SEO for if that's all they do?
I would say realistically, if you are an internal employee of either the dealership or the group, you would really max out at 9 or 10 dealerships total per person.
And that's if you're doing it full-time, nothing else, just SEO.
Yeah, you have no other responsibilities other than doing SEO. But if, for instance, you're handling the pay-per-click stuff or the ad, you know, anything AdWords, anything display, anything remarketing, anything social advertising, anything that's outside the realm of organic SEO, if you're doing that stuff as well, then that's going to be significantly less than 9 or 10. But could you do more than 9 or 10? Sure, but you're not going to be able to spend enough time on any one particular task to really have maximum results. You're going to be much less effective if you're spending less time. So if we know that for your dealership, let's say you have to spend, and I don't know how the math would work out, but let's say you know you have to spend 20 hours a month of time between what your specific task list is. You know you've got 20 hours a month that have to be spent doing the various tasks involved with your SEO. So you know that there are enough hours in a work week and a month, that 20 divides up, that's 10 dealerships that you can work on. Well, if you cut that down, you can work for more dealerships, but now you're not spending enough time to really get the tasks done as well as they could be done if you spent more time on them. So could you do more? Sure. Is it going to really work? Probably not.
All right, Keith, great
question.
That's
something you might ask your provider too. If you've got an SEO provider, maybe it's a good question to ask your provider how many accounts each person handles, or how they even have it set up. A lot of providers set up like a team-based approach where they'll have a content team, and then an optimization team, and then a blogging team, and then a reporting team, and then the guy that's doing your optimizations is doing optimizations for a bunch of different dealers, but that's all he does all day long, every day, and he just ticks down the list, optimize this site, optimize this site, optimize this site. Like the guy writing blogs, write a blog for this guy, now write a blog for this guy, now write a blog for this guy. And it's very disjointed and maybe kind of an overall communication, but there's not really any specific unique strategy for each dealership based on that dealership's needs. And the guy that's writing blogs for you is writing blogs for other guys too and doesn't really know the difference between the dealerships. That's really not a great setup. You know, the way we set things up, we're much more of a boutique approach where one person does everything, so they really know your dealership and the output's on a completely different level. So that's more of the setup like us, is more of what the setup would be if you had an internal employee, because that one person's going to be handling all the various aspects, and it's going to be a cohesive strategy per store. So really, I would say you couldn't do more than 9 or 10 because you're just not going to have enough time to get everything done.
Keith's putting you on the spot now. He wants to know, what's the ratio at DealerOn for SEO?
We max out at 9 per person.
Keith, you got a follow-up question now? He says thank you. All right, great. Let's go to this question from Greg. Greg says, what is your feelings about pushing top of mind for 2 dealerships with the same name, but they're 30 miles apart? Is it more important to optimize each site individually or jointly?
2 dealerships with the same name that are 30 miles apart, I'm assuming they're selling the same brand of cars.
Greg, are they selling the same brand of cars?
I would first question who the heck did something dumb like that and named 2 different buildings the same name.
He says yes, they're selling the same brand.
That's a super, super bad call to name the dealerships exactly the same thing if it's 2 different locations that are 30 miles apart. That's going to be confusing to both humans and to Google. So I would 100% be sharing from both locations, and part of that sharing strategy is going to be differentiating the 2 stores that have the same name so that customers understand there's 2 different locations.
Is that the entire answer?
That's the entire answer.
Okay, well, assuming they're not going to change the name of the dealership.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're not going to change the name of the dealership. So you, instead of just pushing out, hey, this is our brand and come here, I would push out from each location individually, because you need to let people know that there is a difference between the 2 and that they're not the same thing. Plus, it's important to remember that most of the time your social followers are people that already know about you because they've already done business with you in the past. They've either bought a car from you or they come in from service. It's very rare for someone to just go, oh, I really like this dealership, I'm going to go like them on Facebook or follow them on Twitter. It's usually going to be people that have already bought from you. So again, you don't want to be super generic and talk about both as a single entity. You want to talk about the different things related to each one so that it's relevant to the followers for each store, because it's probably unlikely that there's a lot of overlap in the followers for each of those locations. And again, if you're not that relevant and people aren't interacting, then they're going to end up not seeing anything that you're posting anyway.
So I'm just curious. I know we're talking social to do individually, but Greg, are both of those dealerships sharing the one website? I mean, is it 2 different websites?
If they are, that's also a really bad idea.
What?
I said if he does have 2 dealerships that are 2 locations 30 miles apart with the exact same dealership name and it's on one website, that's a supremely even worse idea.
Really?
Yeah, because how's Google supposed to know the difference between the 2? And if they're 30 miles apart, there's not any town that's got a 30-mile width to it, which means they're in 2 separate locations in 2 separate cities with 2 separate markets of customers that they're serving. And if you're trying to do that with a single site, you can't optimize one site for 2 locations throughout the site. because then if you've got one here and one here, and that's 30 miles apart, well, the guy over here, he's got competitors that are nearby to him, and each of those competitors, their entire website is optimized around that one location. And same thing over here. This site that's 30 miles away has different competitors that are nearby, and each of those competitors have a website that's completely optimized around whatever city that is. So if he's got one website that's in the middle and he's trying to optimize for both locations, he now has, at best, a website that is 50% locationally relevant, trying to compete with all the other people in the area that are 100% locationally relevant. So it's going to be very confusing for the search engine algorithms to try to do that with one site, and it would definitely be better to have two sites.
Okay, so far, everything that they should be doing should be done individually and not jointly, and he did write in, he says, no, not sharing the website. So then my question is there anything that should be done jointly?
Maybe offline advertising, but anything digital and online should be separate entities. Especially because you do have separate websites. It's going to confuse customers if you're trying to do anything on social that is generic for both, because again, the people on social are following that specific store's social account. You don't want to talk about the other store that's 30 miles away on that account, other than maybe every once in a while, hey, don't forget, if you don't live nearby, we've got this other location. But on a day-to-day basis, it needs to be individualized to that specific customer base in that specific location.
Okay, his follow-up comment, really it's a question. Again, this is from Greg with 3 G's, by the way. He says they're actually buying a second store that currently has a bad reputation, and they're looking to leverage their current good reputation.
Won't matter, because when you buy that store, you're going to mark it as closed and put a new Google listing up, because you don't want to keep all of those bad reviews and that bad reputation. So you start the new store, and the whole thing of, hey, this is new ownership or whatever goes on your new website for that store. But for your actual Google listing, you don't want to just go, oh, well, we're just going to name it the same name as the other stores. Like, if it's a group thing, like Hendrick has Hendrick attached to every store, but every store has a different name. So if your group has some sort of a group name and it's group name with location afterwards, then that's okay. But you don't want to name it exactly the same thing as something else and hope that that's going to help, because it's not. It's going to cause way too many problems in the algorithm.
Okay, Greg, if you haven't named the store yet, maybe show them this section of the webinar. And okay, he says, very good. Thank you so much. Okay, let's get to this question from Joey. Now, do you have like a Karnak hat or something that you can put on your future building, okay. He's going to ask you to look into the future. I
don't have a hat here.
You're looking for a hat? Okay. Crystal ball, maybe? Okay. Are you seriously looking for a hat? Where did you go? Greg, seriously, where the hell are you?
Just branding for my friends at Authority Lab here. So here's my hat.
And glasses. All right. Next question comes in from Joey. He says, looking into the future, do you foresee that there will be a day when we use something else to discover content and find answers on the web? Will we, for instance, Amazon it, for example, instead of Google it? Or maybe be replaced by AI virtual assistants? What do you think, Greg?
I'm actually doing a keynote at SMX Munich next month about this very topic.
Really?
Yes, that will happen. What form it actually ends up in, who knows? I think it's going to be very Star Trek-ish, where we're just walking around talking to stuff, or like if you saw the movie Her, where he's got the little ear implant that he just talks to. I think it's really going in that direction, where you'll be speaking to your computer, but I still think that there will be a visual interface of some kind, where maybe you've got your display device, and maybe it's this piece of glass if it's going to be cool like that, like Black Mirror or whatever. Certain types of queries just don't lend themselves to doing research with voice. You want to buy some toilet paper? Sure, you're like, Alexa, buy me some toilet paper. But you're never going to be like, Alexa, buy me an F-150. Or Alexa, buy me that new BMW that just came out. Because you're going to want to do research on that. And you're not going to want to sit there and be like, Alexa, tell me about this car. Like, you're going to want to see pictures, and you know, at best, you're going to be, Alexa, show me pictures of this car, maybe. But when you really start doing research, it's always going to be something you may be saying, hey, show me this or do this. You know, on Star Trek, they're like, hey, computer, do this, put it on the screen. It's going to be some situation like that, but I think voice search is definitely coming. I think something else that'll be interesting to watch out for is augmented reality, where you can already do that on the iPhone with, you know, you've got the gosh, what, I don't even remember what it is. Was it Crate and Barrel, or it's not that? It's some, hold on, I got it on my phone. Pottery Barn. So Pottery Barn has this 3D room view thing if you've got the iPhone X, where, and I can't really like show you on here, but you could go in and like select furniture, and the iPhone scans the layout of the room, and then you can say, I want to see what it looks like with this couch, and it'll put that couch in there as augmented reality. So you're standing there at the phone, you can go walk around the side of the couch and look at it from different angles, but the couch is anchored in augmented reality to see what you're seeing. So, you know, I could see potentially, I want to see what this car looks like in my driveway, and it plots the car in your driveway, and you can walk around the car and do a virtual walk around with augmented reality. I don't think that's very far away. I also think you're going to, instead of, you know, if you're out looking for a restaurant and you're walking down Restaurant Row and you're like looking on Yelp trying to figure out where you want to go or looking at reviews, I don't think it's too far away where you be on Restaurant Row and you just look through your phone and it's going to give you pop-ups of, you know, review snippets from each place that just pop up over the door or information. So I think there's a lot of different ways that search will change in the pretty near future. I think as far as like voice search, I think that's a lot more something to worry about outside of automotive. I think within automotive, just because it's such an expensive purchase and there's so much research involved, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I think you're still going to have people doing research on some sort of, is it their phone or tablet, or is it their desktop computer or a piece of glass that they're casting to? Who knows? But I still think there's going to be that visual aspect there, so I don't think it's going to change too much. I don't think we really have to worry about the aspect of, you know, you tell Alexa you need toilet paper, it's going to buy whatever you bought last time, where you're not really specifying a brand or doing a search. I think that's different when it comes to automotive, because you're, you know, unless you're an F-150 loyalist and it's been 5 years, you know, you're going to buy a new one, and you're like, hey Google, I want to buy the new F-150 from the dealership up the street, and then it conducts everything online. Okay, maybe a few people will do that, but I still think for the foreseeable future, it's still going to be on computers for us for a long time.
Joey, great question. Greg, great answer. I wish I was going to Munich. All right, let's see. Next question comes in from Keith. Hey, Keith. He says, what are your thoughts on Google My Business for establishing service and parts hours? Will this affect SEO at all with a service, parts, and dealership sharing the same address?
So I actually did a Wednesday workshop video about this a month ago. Google has now rolled out what it's called department listings. So this would be like for, the example that you see online is Sam's Club. Sam's Club has a bakery. Sam's Club has an auto parts department. Sam's Club has a photo department. So you've got all these department listings that if you go zoom in on a Sam's Club, you'll see all these different listings pop up that are located inside of that. They've rolled this out to car dealers. So a lot of dealers have these phantom listings for service and parts that they don't know exist, that are unclaimed and not optimized. So the way that you can check and see if this exists for your dealership is do a search for your dealership. Then on the knowledge panel on the top right, there's going to be a map. Click on the map. It's going to click to a map search for your dealership. Zoom either almost all the way in or all the way in. It's going to be either in the last zoom or the next to the last zoom. You'll see the service and parts listing appear. Now, they will be generic. They will say brand, parts, or brand service. So like Ford parts, Ford service, Toyota parts, Toyota service. It seems to be dependent on the perceived size of the dealership. So if you have a smaller dealership or you're in a more rural area, you may not have them. Some dealerships only have one or the other. Some dealerships don't have them at all because of the fact that it is brand service. If you're an FCA dealer, it doesn't say Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep service. It would only have to say one. So you won't have a service listing, but you'll have a parts listing that'll say Mopar parts. Now, you want to go in and claim these and optimize them the way that you should, but one thing that you notice when you click on these is when you click on one of these listings to see the listing, it actually says located inside of whatever the name of the dealership's primary listing is. Now, only Google can set these department listings up where they're delineated as being a department that is inside of your main dealership. If you set up a separate parts listing or a separate service listing yourself, it won't say that it's inside of the dealership. It'll be a completely separate listing. Now, there are arguments for and against setting them up on your own. If you have the department listings there already, you definitely want to keep them and have them optimized. If you don't have them, I kind of lean towards don't set them up.
Really?
And here's why. It's really tough to get reviews anyway. Now you're going to have to split your reviews among 3 different sections, and you're going to have a different internal process for requesting reviews for service than requesting reviews from people that come in through sales or requesting reviews from people that do parts. And most of the time, people are going to be confused, and they're just going to search for the name of the dealership and leave their review there anyway. So just organically, you're going to get a lot of reviews on the primary listing anyway. So now you're going to have these listings that don't have reviews. And what if you've got a service listing, but your main listing has 685 reviews and you've got a 4.9 rating? But then on service, somebody comes in and they're just a jackass and they didn't have an appointment and they have to wait 3 hours for an oil change, and now they write you a bad review, and that's the only review that shows up on your service listing, and you've got a 1-star rating. And you're trying to get more reviews to get that score up, but nobody's doing it. And for the foreseeable future, until you can get enough to boost that score back up, now you've got a crappy score on that service listing. And how many people are going to say, I'm going to come get an oil change, and then they look you up, and then they see that you've got a bad listing or bad review score on service, where that's kind of mitigated. If you've got a bunch of reviews, one bad review is not going to hurt you. If also you don't have a clearly delineated separate entrance for that business, so you've got the front door for sales and another completely separate entrance for service, and I'm not talking about driving into the service bay, I'm talking about a physical door that someone walks in to get to service,
Right.
then you can't do it. Like, I drive a Mercedes, and I go to Mercedes-Benz in Plano. It's a super kick-ass brand new dealership, but they don't have a separate door to walk into for service. You walk in the front door and go over to the right, or you just pull into the service bays and then get out and go through the door to go in. But there's no external separate doorway, so Google's going to have a problem with that. Google has a requirement that it has to be A, a separate entrance, and B, separate signage, or you can't have a separate listing. So most of the time, the parts department is going to be included inside of the service department, not be a separate building or a separate entrance anyway. So it's going to be really hard to have a separate parts department. Now, Google will break its own rules, though, when it sets up these department listings, and you may not have separate signage or a separate entrance, but you may have that department listing because Google thinks that you're a large enough dealership and that you should have it. So if you've got them, great, keep them. If you don't have them, I wouldn't necessarily go set them up unless you really do have a separate entrance for service and you feel like you want to separate that out. Then you could kind of go for it.
Okay, so Keith, who knew that question was going to open up that can of worms? And we have a follow-up question from Tamara. Hey, Tamara, she's probably hanging around trying to win that prize. Little Tamara, I see you. Her question is, well, what if the listings are already there? Should we claim them? So I think you kind of leaned
if you've got those listings already there, definitely claim them.
Claim them, but don't use them?
No, you claim them and optimize them and leave them there, for sure.
All right, couple more questions, and then we're going to close out the show. So any last-minute questions to come in, hurry up. Okay, this one comes in from Rachel. She says, if I'm understanding you correctly, we should always focus SEO on each individual rooftop versus directing everyone, including SEO, to our portal page?
100%, especially if it's a portal page. If it's a portal page that just lists all the dealerships and doesn't have any content other than that single page, that's never going to rank for squat because there's really nothing to that site. So yes, even if you have a group site that's a full site that displays all your inventory and has all the information, Google is going to show a lot of preference to individual rooftop sites because there are a lot of signals that matter to prove your locational relevancy that a group site won't have. A group site is an entity. It doesn't have a physical location. Your group site, kind of like the example I was talking about earlier where it's the guy that had the 2 stores that were 30 miles apart, your group site might be a single site for 10, 15, 20, 50 stores that are spread out among multiple states. There's no way to really well optimize that for any one individual location, and you're really splitting your locational relevancy. So because of the fact that locationally you just can't optimize that group site well, and it doesn't have a lot of the signals there that it needs to have, Google just doesn't show group sites as well as it shows the other individual rooftop sites. In fact, so much so that when we have dealers come to us to buy SEO and they're like, hey, we've got 9 stores, so we need 10 SEOs. We need 9 for one for each individual site and 1 for the group site. We actually tell them we're not going to do it for your group site. There's no point. Like, do AdWords for your group site. It makes tons of sense from an AdWords perspective to send ads that draw traffic to the group site that has tons of inventory on it. But we don't really want to try to spend SEO effort or SEO money on driving traffic to the group site because it's not really the best user experience. When someone's looking for something specific, they're going to go to what they find on Google, and that's going to be the individual site.
Rachel, thank you so much for the great question. If you have a follow-up, hurry up and get it in. Jamie snuck one in. He says, speaking of claiming sites, should you have 2 Yelp listings, one for the dealership and one for service and parts?
I would not. In any case out there other than Google, I would have a single listing for everything. There's not really any benefit to separating them out.
That's the end of the answer. All right, Jamie, thank you so much. Last question comes in from Tom. Tom wants to know if you can please provide some websites with awesome SEO and what makes it awesome SEO.
Yeah, all the websites we do SEO for.
Well, can you give us a name of one that you really like?
If you want to email me, I'll send you that. I kind of hesitate to throw it out on the webinar because I don't want a bunch of people going and looking at the site. Not that there's anything to hide, but that kind of artificially inflates their traffic, and I would rather not throw out to the world, hey, go look at this site, because then if everybody goes and looks at it, that causes some weird stuff in analytics.
Okay, yes. Unique visitors. Got it. Okay, follow.
There could potentially be competitors listening in on this, and I don't want to give away our secret sauce. So.
Okay, so Jamie wrote back in. He was the one that asked about 2 different Yelp listings. He says, yep. Yelp doesn't let us have different hours, and currently service and parts have different hours than the dealership, and we get a lot of complaints that our hours are wrong.
So I would be really, really surprised if you have that many people coming to you from looking at Yelp. So I would look at other situations, because with Google, if you have those department listings, those phantom listings, those will all aggregate. So now if you put different listings or different hours on that phantom listing for parts and service, it'll show up on your main listing as separate sections of separate hours. But it's really easy on your website and your social media to let people know that, hey, we have different hours for parts and service. If you're getting that many complaints, there's got to be something more to it than just Yelp not letting you put separate hours up. And even if you did have the separate listing on Yelp, when someone searches for the dealership name and Yelp listing, it's going to show the top listing being your sales listing, because that's the one that has more history and more reviews and more oomph to it. And nobody's going to look past that, because if I'm looking for Jim Bob Ford Yelp page, it doesn't matter if 3 different pages show up. I'm going to click on the first one anyway, and they're not going to go, oh, well, maybe there's different hours for service. Let me back out and see if there's other listings. So it's still not really going to solve your problem. But if you claim that listing and go in and optimize that listing, it should be a little bit more obvious to people that you probably have. And most people out there should know you have separate hours anyway, so really that's more of a make it clear on your website. Because, again, it would be a pretty unique situation if you're getting that much foot traffic coming in that don't go to your website or look at anything else other than Yelp.
Okay. Jamie wrote back in and said thank you. And with that, Mr. Gifford, I'm going to let you take a drink of water because you know what? We still have our prize to give away. So if you wouldn't mind, let's forward down to the prize slide. It's that time. You people have been so patient. Thank you so much. If you missed it at the beginning of the webinar, I announced our good friends over at AutoHook. They're sponsoring this week's webinar giveaway. AutoHook is a showroom traffic driver, and they've built the ultimate attribution engine, which tracks the customer through the lead, showroom visit, and purchase, and then delivers a cost per sale that's best in industry. One of you lucky webinar attendees will win a $250 e-gift card from our good friends over at AutoHook. So get ready, get to your keyboards. First person to write the correct response to our giveaway question will be winning this awesome prize today. Now, if you are a vendor, we love having you on our show. You're always welcome on a DealerOn webinar, always. But this prize is intended for dealership personnel only, so we're going to ask you to kindly sit this out and let one of the dealership people win this. All right, everyone. Everyone wants $250. Who doesn't, right? So good luck. And by the way, it's a simple answer, and you can guess more than once. I don't care. All right, here we go. Hope somebody gets it right. Such a funny question. All right, here we go. Greg Gifford is currently working on a full leg sleeve of a Goonies tattoo. The question is, how many Goonies tattoos does he have so far? Ooh. Okay. A lot of guesses, but the first person to guess the correct answer was Dan Petermeyer. Congratulations, Dan Petermeyer. You got the correct answer first. The correct answer was 6. I would think that we could, at this point, ask Greg to take off his shirt and show us all of them.
It'd be really hard for me to take off my shirt to show you tattoos that are on my leg.
They're all on your leg?
Are
you wearing pants or are you wearing shorts?
So, I don't know. It'd be...
Look at
probably show one. Hold on. Can you see me right now? I don't know if it's showing me because I'm doing the whole slide.
I can only see you down to your waist.
I'm going to move the thing down. I'll show one of the cool ones.
Oh, yeah? You're going to show us? All right. While we're doing that, Dan, send me your... actually, I have everything I need. Send me your email address because it's going to be emailed over to you. Oh, my
There's
God.
There's a chunk in the fridge right there. And then kind of on the back, it's tough to see at that angle. I got One-Eyed Willie back here on the back. I've got Chunk in the fridge right there. I've got Sloth on the side right there. I've got the skeleton key right there. I just added in the Baby Ruth candy bar right there like 2 weeks ago. And then up here on the top, I've got the scene where Mikey's holding the doubloon out trying to figure out where they're going to go. And then I go in next week. I'm getting the pirate ship. So, yeah. But it's 6 right now.
That is outstanding. My question to you is, how many times have you seen this movie Goonies and that you love it this much?
Oh, I don't even know.
Tamara says total commitment right there. I'm going to have to agree with that. Greg Gifford, thank you so much for your amazing presentation. Love it, love it, love it. Now, audience members, if you have any follow-up questions for Greg and you want to get on board and you just want to know more about SEO and you didn't want to ask the question here, hey, that's all right. Let's do that. It's ggifford@dealeron.com. Oh, you have Greg at dealeron.com. Does that work too?
Yeah, I got that now.
Nice. I'm Eliana at DealerOn.com, so I was wondering how long it was going to take him. All right, Greg, thank you so much. Hopefully it won't be long before we get you on for another AGA, Ask Greg Gifford Anything. You're amazing and just such a wealth of information, and we're so blessed here at DealerOn that you are here with us and leading our search and social. Thank you so much. Any last-minute words you want to say to the audience before we let them go?
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. I like it. All right, here we go. Link to download a copy of today's webinar recording is going to be emailed to you later today for your reference. Feel free to share it with your friends and colleagues. It's also going to be posted online within 24 hours. All you have to do is go to dealeron.com/webinar. And from there, you'll be able to view our upcoming webinars and access any of our past webinars as well. And hey, this webinar is going to close in just another minute. And when it does, you're going to get a short survey, really short. It's only 3 questions. So fill it out. We're always looking for quality feedback from our audience, and we want to know what you thought of today's presentation. And hey, while you're filling out that survey, guess what? If you're losing valuable traffic because of a slow mobile site, well, we're going to help you out with that. It's no good because Google estimates that well over half your website traffic is coming from mobile devices. So don't you worry. In that survey, you have the option to ask for DealerOn's mobile site speed test. It's free, and it's all on your mobile website. Just give us your URL and let the magic begin. It's a great way to see how your site stacks up to the competition. And DealerOn's going to be exhibiting and presenting at the upcoming NADA convention in Vegas at the end of March. I'm going to be there, and so is Greg. So if you're going to be there, stop by booth.
With my giant head.
I love your head.
It
3,
looks
4.
so weird next to DeVito.
I didn't make the slide, dude. Booth 3493, Charlie. Just a heads up, there's an open bar, and we make wicked good Bloody Marys. We have the best booth around. We're not just bringing you the best digital marketing tools and some free booze to NADA this year. We're also bringing some serious knowledge. Greg Gifford is going to be having 2 sessions on the Lego Masters Building Guide to Local SEO for car dealers, and it'll help you figure out what's holding your dealership back from showing up in Google searches and in your area. And we've also got Mike DeVito, our Chief Creative Officer, who's going to talk about selling more cars with your mobile website strategy in Pave the Path to Purchase, turning website traffic into sales. Can't wait to see you there at NADA, and keep your eyes peeled out for $100 if you wind up getting a DealerOn demo at NADA. And invitations will be going out tomorrow for our next DealerOn webinar. Woo, it's a good one. Experts from Bing are going to share critical new research on paid search. Do you currently spend money on search engine marketing? Our friends at Microsoft and Bing have been hard at work studying online automotive consumer behavior, and they've put together some incredible information you just have to see. So join experts from Bing as they discuss new proprietary research that shows the interrelationship between OEM, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 properties advertising together and appearing on the search engine results page. They will also discuss the quantified results of position in driving performance and efficiency in paid search. Attendees of this fascinating 1-hour webinar will learn how to grow your customer base, drive brand awareness, reduce competitive consideration, prevent conquesting, and so much more. You can't afford to miss this hour of automotive awesomeness. So if you're ready to hear experts from Bing share critical new research on paid search, then register now. And don't forget, DealerOn's weekly webinars are held Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific. And we have some really great webinar subjects coming up. So if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions regarding our webinars and our topics, contact me directly. I'd love to hear from you. Actually, I'm all over the internet. So Facebook, Google+, Twitter, you name it. Or you know what? Just email me directly, people. I'm at Eliana@DealerOn.com, and I'd love to hear from you. Again, my name is Eliana Raggio, and all you have to do is enjoy the rest of your day, and I want to thank you to all of you so much for spending this time with us, and I hope to see you all on another webinar in our continuing education series. Double G, I will see you in Vegas, baby. Yes, yay, Eagles. Yeah. Take care, everyone.